Welcome to TV Church, Tennessee Valley Church. My name is Tim Boone. I'm the missions pastor at First Baptist Huntsville. I'm in Big Spring Park, right in the heart of downtown. You don't know me very well, but a lot's changed in my life over the past 6 months. Our family moved from Knoxville, Tennessee just last week. New job, new house. Earlier this year, my wife and I welcomed our first child into our family. It's been a wild and beautiful ride, especially being a new parent. Our son is at that point where he's finally taken in the world around him. It's amazing to watch. He's not just a cute, chubby vegetable anymore. He's this thinking, moving, sometimes irritable little human. One of the things that we love to do is read together. Last week, we read The Three Little Pigs for the first time. I love the simplicity of children's books. They're easy to read, easy to understand. Here's how you sum up The Three Little Pigs, 32 pages in 2 sentences. 3 pigs built 3 homes from different materials. A wolf came and blew down the first 2 homes, but not the 3rd home made of bricks. It's simple, but if you dig deeper, the moral lesson for children is profound, and for us too. Hard work and perseverance pays off. The simplest route is not always the best route to take. And there's stay away from wolves. You know how bad the wolf problem is in our city. The story Jesus tells us today in Luke chapter 6 is simple. The message is short and clear, but hard to follow. Here it is. When we listen and put Jesus' words into action, we're able to withstand the storms that come. We need to pay attention to Jesus' teachings, maybe now more than ever. It feels like the waves are crashing around us every day, harder and harder. It's not a matter of if there's trouble in the world. No matter how optimistic or disconnected you may be, you have to admit there's trouble. And that's not the question that most of us are asking. The question on our hearts is, how much worse can it possibly get? This is the time for us to reflect and ask, what kind of house are you building? Do you have the foundation to withstand the storms? Right when we reached a point where we had our minds wrapped around COVID-19, accepting this new normal, we were feeling safe again. And then Russia invades Ukraine, rising inflation, more trouble. The disruptions kept coming, more mass shootings. And then a significant decision from the Supreme Court, more upheaval, more division, more trouble. And when we look at the world around us, we shouldn't be surprised. Jesus tells us as much. You'll face trouble in the world, he said, but take heart. I have overcome the world. I'll be honest, I've been dreading looking at this passage again. Maybe you're like me, it's easier for me to read about Jesus than actually do what he says. There's a few passages that I want to skip over, and this is one of them. There's not a soft landing at the end. We want to think that he's talking about someone else, but he's not. I encourage you, if you have a few moments this week, to read chapter 6 in its entirety. Here's the thing. Jesus isn't here to make friends. He's here to make followers. This is not a sales pitch for lukewarm discipleship. If you're looking for an easy commitment, then go somewhere else. Beginning in verse 29 and through verse 49 is what scholars call the Sermon on the Plains. You'll notice the similarities with the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew's Gospel. And Jesus starts off strong. Forget what you know, he says. In the kingdom of God, the rules are a little bit different. The poor will inherit a kingdom that will never end. When you're hungry, when you're weeping, even when people hate you and insult you, you're actually blessed and not broken. Not because of what the world thinks of you, but because of the power of the one that's within you. And he doesn't stop there. Don't just tolerate your enemies. Anybody can do that, but love them. Pray for them. That family member that keeps asking you for money, they say they're going to pay you back, but they never do. Love them. The coworker who keeps pulling you into conversations that break other people down, love them. And I don't know about you, but I can't remember the last time I said a really good prayer for Vladimir Putin. You may have survived so far, but you won't survive this next part. And I don't care about what you say. I care about your fruit. I care about what overflows from a heart that's changed by the love of God, and you can't fake fruit. A lot of us want the people around us to think that our garden is full to overflowing, but the pictures you post on social media aren't fooling anybody. You can't fake fruit. If it wasn't clear before, it is now. He's not here to make friends. He's here to make followers. And by the time we get to verse 49, no one is left untouched. Everyone is on the same side of the line. He's destroyed the us versus them way of thinking that makes us believe that this message is for somebody else. It's really us and them. The problem isn't those people, it's people, and I'm one of them, and you are too. Because it's easy to say the right things, believe the right things, but Jesus doesn't care about what you believe. He cares about what you do. Here's the problem. There's a lot of Christians that are good at listening to Jesus, but they don't live like they've ever actually met Jesus. Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. If you don't do the will of my Father, I don't know you. Jesus says in Matthew 7, I'll know you by your fruit. We are what we do, no matter what we believe, no matter what we say. The psychiatrist Carl Jung said that you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Jesus isn't looking for friends, he's looking for followers. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you? Jesus is calling us to look inward and ask, what kind of life are you building? Are you building a life on a foundation that lasts? A life that's rooted in the only one that can give you what you need? And we don't need to question Jesus on this. Jesus knows people. Jesus knows about the human experience, to know pain and temptation. We remember Jesus in the garden. He knew that the crucifixion awaited him. He begged for his Father to make another way. If there's any other way for your will to be done, he said. Jesus has already been tempted in the wilderness. He's been offered all of the riches and power and glory that the world has to offer. Jesus models for us the spiritual resilience that we should strive for. He knows that withstanding storms takes more than a desperate prayer. It takes a dedicated life, a firm foundation of faith. And Jesus knows our hearts, and he always speaks to what our hearts desire most. Jesus knows that we were built to worship. It's in our DNA. We're made by God, for God. St. Augustine wrote that you've made us for yourself, O God, and our heart is restless until it finds rest in you. We're fundamentally loving and desiring creatures. We're created to love, to worship. Martin Luther wrote that whatever your heart clings to and confides in, that is really your God. That is what you worship. We are what we do. We are what we worship. The problem is when we build our lives on things that don't last, when what our heart clings to is not aligned with the heart of God, our worship will be directed elsewhere. How we build, what we build our lives on affects the direction of our worship, because our lives will always point us to what we truly desire. And these desires aren't always bad. We want our children to be attractive for colleges, and so we fight the temptation every time the season comes around to choose competitive sports over Sunday worship. We are what we worship, and we build our lives to serve whatever God that is. We have to remember what Jesus says in Matthew 22, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. One of the primary purposes of discipleship, why I hope you're listening today, is to tune our hearts to the heartbeat of Jesus, so that the entirety of our lives, our desires, will point to him. When we come back, I want to offer 3 ways to think about building your life on Jesus, our firm foundation.
How I live for the moments where I'm still in your presence and all the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. You're the fire in the morning, you're the cool in the evening, the breath in my soul, you're the life in my bones. There is no hesitation in your love and affection. It's the sweetest of all. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I Touch from you. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. Undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven.
The Village of Promise will once again sponsor one table for Thanksgiving for the community. And the CEO of Village of Promise, Dana Gillis, joins us today. Appreciate you joining us here.
Oh, thanks. My pleasure, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
We're here at Big Spring Park, where one table will once again take place, sponsored by the Village of Promise. Dana, the mission of the Village of Promise, you all try to break the cycle of poverty using a multi-generational approach. How does that work?
Well, I can tell you've done your homework. Well, basically, it's a two-tiered approach. We focus on preschool students and trying to prepare them for going into the K through 12 school system. And then the other side of that is helping the parents, because we believe that you have to help the families as well if you really want to break the generational cycle of poverty. And for us, it's providing an ecosystem where the parents, through our Family Advancement Center, can basically tell us what their dream of the future is. And our job is to provide them with everything they need to be supportive as they try to achieve their personal goals.
And what a great mission for the city of Huntsville and the Tennessee Valley, really. Village of Promise, this is about your fourth year to do one table. You had 1,500 attend last year. Your goal this year is 2,000. Tell us about one table.
Well, one table is an opportunity for us to bring different segments of the community together. Basically, we want to bring in the business people from downtown, but we also want to bring together the people that make up our entire community. And it's kind of a no strings attached thing, because this has just been named the best place in the country to live for 22-23. And our purpose is really to bring everyone together to kind of show why this is the place that people want to come to, because of the community that we have amongst different segments of our society here. So basically, it's a free meal, or a Thanksgiving style meal, and we're going to come together and break bread and just have conversations about what makes this place so special.
And last year, what effect did you see? How did you see people interacting?
Oh, I think it was great in that people actually did reach across to people that they didn't know just to sit down and get to know someone better that might be in different circumstances that you are. One of the things that we're trying to do this year is make sure that people have conversations about the fact that, yeah, we are the #1 place in the country to live, but there are some folks that are still struggling to try to achieve those same dreams that others have about our community. And if everybody can have a conversation and an understanding of what makes this place so great, I think it's something that can inspire everyone to be even better than we are right now.
One Table this year is Monday, November 21st from 11:30 to 1:30, right here at Big Spring Park. What do people need to know if they want to attend?
Basically, come down to the park, come right here near the museum. We'll have several long tables set up with tablecloths. There will be a Thanksgiving style meal done by Bubba's Catering that was phenomenal last year, and we're expecting the same great things this year. Bring yourselves, bring your families, bring friends, and just come in and enjoy having a meal outdoors in some great weather.
Well, thank you and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? As for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They are like a man building a house, who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood came, the torrent struck that house, but could not shake it, because it was well built. But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, it collapsed, and its destruction was complete.
You might be someone today that's tired of pursuing things that are leaving you empty. It's not too late to build your life on Jesus, to choose a different way. If I'm talking to you, here's where you can start. Be honest about what you're building. Be honest about what you worship, what your life says to the people around you about what you truly love. Only you, with guidance from the Holy Spirit, can answer this question for yourself. We need to start each day praying for the Spirit to search our hearts, to reveal any habit, any desire that's not of God. That's the only way that we can know if what we think we believe is truly reflected in what we want and how we spend our time. Professor Jeff Dyer says that this is because your deepest desires is the one manifested by your daily life and habits. Our habits aren't just things that we do, they do something to us. Our habits and routines shape our values. It's how we direct our energy and time. You may be someone that gives part of your week to serve others. Even without knowing it, that habit shapes the heart to be more loving, more giving. The more we serve others, the more open we are to caring about the people around us. As believers, we're encouraged to give part of our income back to God, not because we want to, but because we need to. We hold so tightly to our money that when we give a portion back to God, we're stepping out in faith, trusting not only that God will use what you're giving, but God will provide and give you what you need as you give. The more you give of what you have, your time, your money, the more you trust God with what you have, the more that you'll find that you have to give, and the more joy you'll experience in your giving. The second is, if you aren't happy with what or how you're building, build something different. The greatest news that we can hear today is that nothing is beyond God's ability to redeem. God works for good in all things. You may have spent the last 20 years worshiping your career. You've compromised the integrity of your build in the pursuit of power and success. Your marriage might be collapsing. You forgot how to put your partner first. You're no longer doing the little things that make a marriage last. If you're reflecting on your life today and you realize that you're building your life on a weak foundation, today is the day to change. Build something different. God works for good in everything. And to keep doing what you've always done means that you will be where you've always been. Ben Bosinger knows this truth. He knew for a long time that he should forgive his father. Enough therapists and priests and friends had told him that he finally believed it. For the first 11 years of my life, all I remember was fear, he said. It was life or death fear. I feared for my life, for the lives of my brother and sister, and for the life of my mother. My father was the angriest, most violent human that I've ever known. Ben talks about the anger he carried around for decades. He didn't trust people. It affected all of his relationships. He turned to drugs and alcohol. He resisted forgiving his father because he believed that he would be just one more person to let him off the hook for what he did. He blamed his father for every problem in his life, his shortcomings as a father and husband. Ben finally realized that he had built his life on resentment and pain. He finally had enough. Even though his father never apologized or admitted the abuse, he decided to forgive his father. One day, Ben built up the courage to visit his father. He drove up the driveway on his motorcycle. His father came outside and they started talking about motorcycles. They both really liked motorcycles. At the same time, they both bent down and checked the greasy engine. And in that moment, side by side, Ben forgave his father. He looked at his wrinkled face, his long gray hair, the signs of aging. He was human. He was so flawed. He loved motorcycles. And somewhere in all of that, Ben forgave his father. The weight was lifted. He felt like he could finally breathe again. Ben reclaimed his story when he forgave his father. He realized that he was only responsible for his actions. He was no longer the victim. That doesn't mean that he wasn't victimized, but the pain that he had experienced no longer had power over his life. He made the choice to build differently. The foundation of pain was replaced by peace and freedom. It's true that only God can change our hearts, but we have to take that first step in obedience and faith. What step do you need to take to build differently? The third is to dig deep to withstand the storm. The one in Luke chapter 6 who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock survived the storm. As the storms in our lives get more difficult and more pervasive, we need to dig deeper in our faith. We need to invest wholeheartedly in disciplines of faith, disciplines that shape and strengthen our inner life. Oswald Chambers writes that the battle is won and lost in the secret places of our souls. When we have practices in place that bring us into the presence of God, where our heart and mind is focused on the God that's fighting for us, we'll go through the day reassured that whatever we face, the battle is already won. Those things that nurture the soul, practices that connect our heart to the heart of God. Prayer and meditation, studying God's Word, these will deepen our reliance on the Holy Spirit. If you have a good routine, if you feel like you and Jesus have a pretty good thing going on, dig deeper. Ask bigger questions. Don't get comfortable where you are. God's not done with you yet. If you've been involved in a small group for a number of years, maybe it's time to ask, what would it look like for you to lead a small group? If you've been a Christian for a while and you haven't been baptized, take that next step. Discipleship is the gradual shaping of our lives so that we look more like Jesus than we did before. It's work that's never done, so dig deeper. I know some of you who are listening today are exhausted and overwhelmed. If you feel beaten down by the storms you're facing, if you feel like the foundation is breaking underneath you, the walls are starting to shake and you want to let go, Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I'll give you rest." He doesn't say that it's going to be easy. It's not, but his burden is light. Build your life on Jesus. He's worthy. He's already overcome anything that you have faced, are facing, and will face. He is able. Friends, to keep doing what you've always done means that you will be where you've always been. Today's the day to be honest about what you're building, to admit that you've been building a life by yourself, for yourself. You haven't given yourself completely to the only one that's worthy of your worship. You were created to worship. If that's all you take away from our time together, remember that. To worship anyone or anything else is to miss out on your purpose, what you're created for. Build your life on Jesus. He's all you need.
You might be feeling a need or maybe even a call from God to be part of our church family in a more tangible way. If you're not able to join us physically here at 600 Governors Drive, whether because of distance, mobility, schedule, or some other reason, you still can be a member of First Baptist Huntsville. Let me send you information on what that would mean, what you could expect from your church, and what your church would expect from you. Email me at travis@fbchsv.org. Let me know of your desire for membership, and I'll help you get started. Join hands with us as we attempt to join hands with God Himself in His mission to the world.